Producer Joe here from the Working Fans Podcast. And at the Working Fans Podcast, this is just a podcast that three lifelong fans created to have a place to talk comedy and pro wrestling. Now, our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We release bonus episodes under the moniker Working Fans Presents every now and then. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, any major podcast provider. The important thing is just please like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to us. Now, we have started a new thing. We are now on Amazon and Audible. So those episodes release every Monday. And that's kind of going through the archives and just releasing our old episodes in a new area. So if you want to live through the process with us again, take that journey with us again, you can find us over on Amazon and Audible. Now, if you can't get enough of us in the audio form, check out our YouTube. It's youtube.com/C/Working Fans Wrestling Pod, or just search Working Fans Podcast on YouTube. We have the whole archive is up there. And if you listen to the Working Fans Podcast, you are more than familiar with the 531. That is our signature segment where we take your top 5 lists on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, and then debate it down to a top 1. Now, guys, if you want to hear 3 guys talk shit about comedy, wrestling, life, anything, you will enjoy the Working Fans Podcast.
To the Working Fans Podcast, Comedycast. Today we got a special guest, young comedian, been doing it for about 2 years. Kayla Marie, her friend, is going to future guest star on here. So if it says Daniel DeLuca on it, she will be on a future show. We're just a little preview. But Kayla, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I've been better. We're talking. I've got a little allergy problem, not a Coke problem, as we talked about.
Yeah.
So comedy. How did you break into comedy?
Well, I was sad.
That's a great start.
Yeah. I actually was going through a big life change, and there was a comedy club in my town, and I was like, oh, that's probably super shitty. Like, this town sucks. It's probably just a bunch of hacks. For like 2 years, I never went, and I just like judged it in my head. And then I showed up one day. I was like, oh, why not? Let's see. And I was pleasantly surprised. Like, the comics were really talented, very funny, very kind, cool spot. And I was nervous to go up, but I finally did. And then shortly after, I started working there. So
awesome. Now, did you ever have anything that prepared you for doing stand-up?
Well, stand-up to me is like telling the truth, you know, and so I guess I've always been somebody that's just really honest. And yeah, when I went to the comedy club, I found people like that, and it was like a family finally of, you know, outspoken people, which it can be a lot sometimes. Yeah, but also I can be a lot. So I was like, yes, I'm home.
Wow.
I did do some stuff like that before. Like, I did public speaking, and I went to school for psychology and communication. So I love people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that help? Like, I mean, I'm assuming you've probably had a few bad acts here and there, right? You must have bombed a couple times. And how's that? How's dealing with that?
It's brutal, but it's part of it. So, like, at first, it's not that bad because you don't expect to do well because you're brand new, you know, and you're like, I'm off the hook. But then, like, once I started to get on shows and people believed in me and were like, okay, don't make me look bad. Actually, I had a friend that his name's Carl Lee, and he was like, I booked you on the show. It's a big deal. If you fuck up and you're not funny, I'm going to chop you in the throat.
Pressure's on.
Yeah, for like 2 weeks before the show, every day he would send me a GIF or like a meme of like somebody getting throat chopped, you know? And I was like, oh shit. Like I was having nightmares. I was telling my kids, like, you pray for me because if I fuck up, Carly's gonna chop me in the throat, you know? So
fucking Carl, man.
yeah, he's the best. So it's like a sensei situation where I was like, I won't let you down, you know? And I did all right. You know, he's like, chop yourself in the throat right now. But I remember I told my therapist, I was like, you know, most comedians have a therapist. If they don't, they should. But most everybody should. But anyway, I was like, you know, I'm going to do these shows. And I feel like I'm pushing myself to the point where I know I'm going to fail, right? Like it's almost certain. But in order to grow, that's where I have to go.
Yeah.
So there will be a day I bomb and it's going to suck and I'm going to feel shitty afterwards. That's a reality. So just expecting it and not being like unrealistic, and also working really hard to make sure it doesn't happen, because you don't want that feeling. That feeling is, it doesn't go away fast. You know? Yeah.
You actually, I was going to ask you, and maybe Carl's it, but do you have any mentors right now?
Yeah, I have a lot of people in my life that I respect and, you know, ask their advice and ask for guidance. Danny is a cool person out here that I met, and she's a bit older than me, and she just yells at me and tells me to get my shit together. She's like, get organized. We're going to be late. And I'm like, I need you all the time, like a big sister, you know?
Right.
But I think Jackie Pearl is another person in Sacramento who she's like a comedy aunt. She's from Hawaii. So I've heard just from this, I'm not from this area, you know, I'm from Portland area. But everybody's like, when Jackie moved here from Hawaii, she brought all the females together, like all the women comics in Sacramento kind of came together. She has like this aloha spirit. And so I said I was coming down, and she met me for lunch. She bought my lunch. She like made sure I had shows. She made sure I was okay, connected me with people. And for women to support each other like that, it's like rare, and it shouldn't be. It needs to happen everywhere all the time. Like there's not a lot of women in comedy, and we should be supporting each other, you know, as best as we can. So, yeah, that. And then when I worked at the comedy club, you know, they gave me a job there, and I just like learned so much when I was working there. My friend Julie was one of the owners, and she's no longer there, but she would pull me aside and be like, hey, you're being dumb. I'm like, oh.
Straightforward.
I didn't know, you know. She was like, dude, you got to not do that. And I was like, all right, cool. So a lot of people, I think I've been very lucky to be around kind people who will tell me the truth because they love me, you know. So
yeah, that's good. It's good to have that positive people in your life. At the same time, have you ever had, you don't have to name names, but have you ever had any issues with people giving you a harder time because you're a female in comedy? Is that a thing that happens a lot? Or
yeah, it's, you know, there are certain things that happen because I'm a woman that probably, I don't know, I would imagine wouldn't happen if I was not. Like stage time is hard. You really have to work hard just to get people to respect you and not think that you just want to, like, I don't know, tell silly jokes. I had one guy be like, I don't understand your dude humor. And I was like, it's for everybody. It's just humor. And stupid. And my boyfriend is a comic. He's like my biggest support. And he was doing comedy before me, but he was doing like improv. We kind of started stand up at the same time. And we were friends first. And then we went to tacos one-on-one one day. And like he cried in front of me.
oh man.
And I was like, oh no, I might fall in love with him. And I did. So
wow, there you go.
Yeah. And he's probably my biggest support. And like, so as a woman, especially, I was like, I don't want to get involved because what if we break up? Like they know you better than they know me because we live in the same town, right? So I don't want to like mix business and pleasure. Like I don't want to fuck up my comedy life, you know? but I really love him. So we went for it. We've been together like more than 2 years now, and we have
nice.
5 kids all together. So
Holy shit. Good for you guys. Wow. I asked a girl on here before. We had another lady comedian on here. She's out on the East Coast. And I asked her if it was good to date comedians. She said it wasn't, but she would probably do it again. Because she said you just know, like, you're meeting the same people with the same interests a lot of times, too.
yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Like, the good thing about it is we get it. Like, if we have a show and we go out to like eat before the show or to have a drink, I'm like, don't talk to me. I'm thinking about my set. You know?
Right.
Me too. Fuck you. You know, and it's perfect. And also, like, if he has a big show or something, and like we just know like how each other feel about it. So if we can tell like the other person wasn't super happy with the way it went, then we know like ahead of time. We're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a rough night, but I know how to support you. You know,
Right.
And then we have the same interests. So in our free time, we love to like watch the same shows or write, or we'll be having a conversation, and I'm like, shh, I have to write that down. It's funny. And he'll be like, hold on. I don't want to forget, you know? So it's a lot of like, okay, yeah. Or one time he said to me in the middle of the night something, he was like, oh, don't forget this. And I was like, I hope you forget. I don't want that to be a joke. It's not good.
That's some angry woman stuff right there.
Yeah.
I hope it's not funny.
Yeah.
That's
so
funny.
we have a lot of fun together. And I love him very much. And I think it's great. I don't think I hope we get married and we're together forever. But like just me as a person, like I wouldn't want to be with somebody that's not a comic, because it's really complex. And I just think they wouldn't understand. And especially being a woman, like being the star of the show and them being like holding it down, not exactly what most men want to do.
Right.
But we're both drama queens, like prima donnas. So we take turns, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it works out. So yeah.
Now, is there anything you try to do to stand out right now? Like, when you're going to do your set, is there anything you try to do to like, okay, make yourself different?
Well, I don't try to do anything to stand out. I just do. That's probably because I'm just like really weird. I have a weird life. Like I moved 14 times. I went to 14 schools by the time I was 12.
Wow.
So I'm used to being the new girl. So I like to go to different, I'm like adventurous. Like the place I feel most at home is in the back of a U-Haul. So like,
wow.
I love being on the road for comedy. I love being the new girl in town, like meeting people. So that's just something that works well with comedy, I guess. But also I'm a survivor of human trafficking and domestic violence. Yeah. So, to try and make people laugh about that is like my goal. And it's hard to do it well without like violating my self-worth or like getting it wrong,
Yeah.
But because I'm a survivor and I have that experience, I think I can actually say the thing and people can hear and learn. So we learn best if we're laughing,
Now,
I talk about that.
Interesting, because I was actually going to ask this before. Isn't that kind of like the art of comedy too? Is to like to sometimes take these like crazy, awful situations, but somehow to like kind of make light of it, where we can all laugh still and make it easier. Yeah. Right.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think comedy is like just the truth, but saying it in a way that points out the absurdity sometimes,
Right.
And then what I like to do is like find the thing that's just completely absurd, and then sometimes use my imagination and add to it, like heighten it, like say the thing and then be like, what if, can you imagine? And just like get silly. And so you take that truth and then you just make it like super silly. Yeah.
That's pretty good. Now, have besides obviously your boyfriend, obviously Danielle. So you've met a lot of interesting people and made a lot of relationships already through this thing. Then, would you say more so than any other job you had?
Oh yeah, I'm a super social person, but I'm also autistic. That's not a lie.
No, that's fine.
I got diagnosed this year actually, and I've had ADHD my whole life since I was like 14. And women oftentimes don't get diagnosed with autism because like women never get anything first. But second of all, there was just kind of the stereotype that was like a young white boy putting his trains in the line,
Yeah.
And that's not what it is at all. Always, sometimes, definitely sometimes, but not always. And they never even studied autism in girls until like recently. And like in the UK, it's better diagnosed. And in the US, it's really hard to get a diagnosis for a woman, especially an adult woman, because it's always like doesn't express the same way. Like we still can communicate really well, but we don't understand social things. So I've always been super awkward. And now I know why, and so it helps me to be kinder to myself, finding that out. And it's weird that I have all these relationships because people have an idea in their head that like autistic people are like introverted and
Right.
are doing well socially. But I meet people and I love them. But am I doing well socially? No, it's a shit show. Like they're like, Kayla, no, and we're like always, they're just like, it's crazy. It's madness living around me. Like my world is insane, but that's why it's fun. And that's why it's funny, because it's like, you can't make this shit up. It's really tough.
I think you got a great attitude. I love it. I like that. It's very refreshing. You're very honest with yourself. Have you thought about doing like talk shows or podcasts or anything? Because you definitely got kind of a knack, it seems like.
Yeah, I have a podcast actually. It's on the radio in my hometown, and it's also on YouTube, and I'm getting ready to put it like on Spotify too and all that. It just
awesome.
We barely started it took off, and then the radio was like, we want this, and it's just been so fast all at once that I'm like, oh, I can't do it as fast. But we're getting caught up. But we had some really cool guests on, like the first podcast episode. Have you ever heard of the show Archer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Amber Nash, who plays Pam Poovey,
yep,
came on with her husband, Kevin Gillies, who was formerly the director of Dad's Garage Theater in Atlanta for 10 years. And they're making a movie right now with Colin from Whose Line Is It Anyway? You know who he is?
Oh, yeah. Colin,
right? Like,
yeah,
he grew up on that shit.
Yeah.
He's playing the dad in the movie. And then Aisha Tyler is in the movie. And a really awesome neurodivergent actor named Luke Davis. And the movie is called How to Ruin the Holidays. But the reason for the movie is because Kevin, Amber's husband, has a brother who has developmental disabilities. And like they are frustrated that people like autistic people or people with Down syndrome or people that are just generally developmentally disabled, who knows why, are represented like so one-dimensional on screen. And they're like, you know what? You might have Down syndrome, but you could still be an asshole.
Right.
We're not children. People that are different sometimes get kind of like marginalized and treated like they're not a whole person. And so the movie is like giving this character like 3 dimensions, So that's why people are excited about it. And that's why they wanted to come on my podcast, because I am awkward. And they're like, you get it. And I was like, yeah, I do.
That's fun.
So it's exciting what they're doing. I'm really proud to be a part of it.
What's the name of your show?
It's called Strange Together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, people should check it out. That sounds great.
Thanks.
That's funny. Yeah, I think people, you say it is funny. Like maybe Patton Oswalt said it or something, but like Hollywood does stereotype a lot. Like you kind of like miss it. Like I think he was pointing out like gay people like in Hollywood are always flamboyant, but there's never like a lazy gay person or like he's just messy and doesn't give a shit about anything. It's like, why doesn't that happen?
Yeah, he's like, I don't care about fashion, but I still want to suck a dick. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Why can't that be a thing, right? What the hell?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, it's exciting for me because I'll do a show. I have jokes about human trafficking. I have jokes about autism. And every time I do a show, at least one person comes up to me and it's like meaningful. And they're like, hey, I just want to let you know I relate to that in some way. Either it's me or my family member, and no one ever talks about it. And it's really hard. And you talked about it and you made me laugh. And I just want to say thank you so much,
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm like, that's why I do comedy,
Yeah.
And I have other jokes too that are about things like, I don't know, that it's not a TED talk, It's like we laugh about everything. If you want to joke about tacos, joke about tacos, But at the same time, like, I think comedians who are really well loved and respected, the reason is because they stand for something and they encourage people usually, even if the encouragement is like, it's okay to be an asshole.
Right.
They're still about something.
Right.
Yeah. So
I might be a prick, but damn it, that's who I am.
Yeah, I'm a prick too. I love you. I'm your biggest fan. Yeah, but it's like, you stand for something, and so, yeah.
Do you have any other passions besides comedy that you're really excited about, or?
Well, my children, I prefer them over comedy. They are the best. So I love being a mom, and then also, I play guitar and I write some silly songs and I perform them and it's part of stand-up. And so I love to do that. And then I have a sketch show that I created and I produce. It's called the Gosh Damn Sketch Show. So I really love writing. I loved writing before I loved comedy. I've just always been a writer. So hopefully one day I can have a real sketch show. I'm not the best actress. I'm very real. Like, I can't really fake it. But if it's honest, then yeah. But like, we have this joke in my family. I can't really recreate a facial expression, So like, if everybody is doing the same face in a photo and I try to do it, mine's like totally different. If I stand by a poster, like I was trying to do one with the Kill Bill poster behind me, and I was trying to do like Uma Thurman's like face, and it was like so off, So if they're like, on command, do this face, it's gonna be wrong. But if it's like improv or like a character that I relate to and it's an honest reaction, then I love to do it. But I can't really fake it. So
yeah, you're a very real person. I guess you don't know how to.
I don't know how. I try.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Good for you. Now, are there any other goals you have right now, whether comedy, the podcast, or whatever? What are some goals you got professionally?
Yeah. So in December, I'm going to LA. I was like scouted by this lady. I auditioned. It was my first time ever auditioning for anything because I don't really like the whole like process. But I saw this movie called Mr. Roosevelt. Have you seen it?
I don't think so. Sounds familiar though.
It's like an independent film and it's a comedy, and the writer and actress that created it, she is a genius. And in the first scene in the movie, she's a stand-up comic that's like struggling, and she's at an audition and she's doing like, impressions. And one of the impressions she does is of a GIF, and she just does a thing over and over. And they're like, "What is it?" She's like, "I'm a GIF," like. And her audition goes terribly. And then she like, her cat dies. That's not a spoiler.
Oh, Jesus.
Mr. Roosevelt is the cat. He's died, so she's to go home. It's this whole thing, and it's just like this like coming of age story that we do now with millennials when they're like 30, because that's when that happens now. I don't know. And like, I loved it so much. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to this audition and like just use it as material, like just experience it. And I wound up like crying right before the audition because like I had gotten an argument with someone. I was like, I don't care if I'm going, because it's going to be funny and it's for stand up. And then I got a call back, and then I got another call back, and I was like, well, I guess I'm doing this now, like accidentally. Wow. So yeah, in December, I'm going to LA. They're flying me out for like a week to like the Marriott, the Burbank area. And I get to do all these casting things. So I will be doing film scene, improv, commercial, a monologue, and some songs. And I have to do the runway, which I don't know why. But yeah. And the themes are creative and military for the runway. So I don't know why they want me to do that. But I'm going to do it.
So funny.
Yeah, and then there's casting. So January is when they do all the pilots for like the new shows that got picked up for all the different networks. So in December, it's like Harvest Week where they like do all these castings. And so all the casting directors will be there from like Netflix, Disney, Nickelodeon, and like other, smaller networks. And if they see you and they're like, oh, you'd be good at that character,
Yeah.
And I think because I'm an autistic woman, like if they have any characters that are that, they should have me play it because it's real,
Right.
And
You're born for that. You're ready for that.
yeah, I'm ready for that. So hopefully, somebody sees who I am and wants other people to feel like represented in that way. And also it'd be dope if it like paid my bills,
Right.
So
On a
that's
side
kind of the
note.
goal. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's all I got for you today. Is there anything you want to promote? Anything else coming up in social media? Hit it.
Let me think. Well, I just think my podcast, Strange Together, that would be the main thing. I really like what we're doing on there because it's an inclusion and diversity podcast, and we're bringing people that are different together to share their stories, and it's like pretty vulnerable, and it's people who like our last guest was Rodney Norman, and he has a special on Comedy Central and Dry Bar. But I ask things that are like, what did you want to be when you grow up? Or what's something strange about yourself that you love, And so we kind of like dig deep, and it's fun to just hear people share things that maybe they wouldn't share in a different setting, So
All right.
I just want people to hear it so they feel encouraged.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Kayla,
thank you.
Thank you. You're awesome. You really are. Like, you're very outgoing. You're very honest, and it's a breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
What about do you know your Twitter or Instagram? We can plug it after if you want. But
yeah, so I have Instagram and Facebook, and it's at Kayla Marie Comedy on Instagram, and then on Facebook it's Kayla Marie. But for some reason, when you type in Kayla Marie, there's like a million.
I was gonna say there's probably 1,000.
Yeah, but I live in Salem, which is like right like south of Portland. So if you just put Kayla Marie Salem in the Facebook search, I will come up first.
And hopefully no creepy people will follow you.
No. Yeah, but I have a public Facebook, so I love to meet people, so it's fine.
Awesome. All right. Well, you're awesome. Kayla, thank you so much for doing the show. We appreciate you. We maybe even have you back when my allergies are a little better. And
I hope you feel better. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
At least it's not Coke.
It's not. No, it's not a Coke problem. I assure you. We'll have you back so I can prove that to you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, though, for doing it. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.